Hey everybody, welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. I hope you had a good couple of days, and hope it was interesting. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started right on some of the learning stuff that we're going to do. However, we are going to introduce you guys to Google Sites first, mostly because that's what you're going to be using to create your online portfolio and show off all of your work with everybody else in the future. So we'll do that, and time permitting, we'll go over HTML as well, so you guys can get more into the customization aspect of your page. It's not going to be terribly complex HTML, but it's going to be a good starter, so you can, get more familiar with it, and if you're interested, take the leap into it and really get into the nuts and bolts of your pages and customize them. Now, bear with me. This first lesson is probably not going to be the most exciting lesson, I'll be honest with you. We're not going to be learning about like bridges and stuff, or CNC machines, or coding with a Raspberry Pi or anything like that, which, I'm not really doing myself any favors by saying that, but I want to be honest with you guys before we get started. That being said, it's still kind of neat. And especially if you're interested in web development or anything like that, hopefully you can get something pretty cool out of this. Get started on the right foot, and you'll have some place to put your work. With that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. So, like I said, we're going to get started with Google Sites today. There's some things I wanted to go over before we looked at Google Sites at all, just some basic safety stuff. It might seem obvious to you, but regardless, I want to make sure that all of our bases are covered and that information is out there and floating and you guys are aware of it. If you guys were part of Young Engineers last year, this is all going to be a repeat of information, but hopefully that will be okay. So, let's see here. A primer on internet safety. Now, you guys are in high school. You guys have pretty much grown up with the internet. So, you understand it. The internet was a new thing to me when I was younger. I actually didn't have an internet-enabled computer until I hit middle school. And back in my day, we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow towards school, blah, 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 whatever. Point being, you guys are much more familiar with it than I was at your age. You guys are much more aware of the ramifications of your actions and what you put out there on the internet. That being said, I'm still going to go over these things just so we're sure that we are all on the same page. So, don't share information about your family, your relatives, or your friends on your Google pages, Google Sites, website. It should be extended to don't share any personal information, which is actually a part of number 2. Don't share your full name, address, phone numbers, or the location of your house to anyone on the internet. Location of your house and address, more or less the same thing, but whatever. Don't share any of that stuff. Kind of goes without saying. Don't tell people where you are on the internet because you don't know who's going to see it. You don't know if they're your friends, they're already going to know it. And if there's some random stranger, you probably don't want them knowing it. So don't share that information. Also, sharing information about your family or your friends means that people can more easily pinpoint who exactly you are, and they can get more information about your life. So, I'm sure you guys are aware of doxing. It's not a cool thing. Don't make it easier for anybody else to do it. Do tell your parents about your Google site. Yeah. Your parents, it will be helpful to have them in on the fact that this exists. It'll also be helpful to, be able to run by them any information that you put on the site, things like that. Plus, since it's an online portfolio, you'll be able to show it off to them. So you want to make sure that your site is private or link access because you want to be able to control who visits it. at least to a better degree than you would be able to normally. If it's public, it's going to be out there for everyone to see, and anybody who can search the right keywords on Google will be able to pull up your page. If it's private or link access, it's not going to be visible through Google. It's only going to be visible by people who you give the link to, or who have the link, I should say. Because that's another important distinction. Even if it's link access only, you could give the link to a friend and they could hand out the link to somebody else. You never know. But at least if it's link access only, you have more control over how access to your site is distributed. All pretty basic stuff, though, that you guys already knew, right? Yeah. Another thing to know, anything on the web can be seen by someone, or anyone, depending on, how tightly you control it. But it's true. I'm sure you guys have probably already had the lecture about Facebook, or you've seen stuff about how far stuff can spread on Facebook. I know I've heard about it too. But that's the beautiful thing about the internet, is it's public access, it's an information sharing sort of network. Well, not sort of network, it is an information sharing network, and it is fantastic at that. It's fantastic at being able to share information across the world to anyone. However, that is the flip side of that, is you put information out there, you got to understand that it is visible by anyone. I think that's all that needs to be said about that. Notify your parents of anything questionable. Again, it always helps to have people who can, help you out in case things start getting a little weird. In case you start getting, weird messages, or you notice something strange on your website, or somebody, whatever. It's always good to have, parents there. Sometimes they've kind of dealt with things like this before. They'll be able to give you help. Other times, it's helpful to have people on your side, so that you're not alone. I mean, that cannot be understated. And yeah, so in that sense, notify your parents if anything strange happens. If they already know about the site, then that's a plus. And do not put pictures of yourself on the site without your parents' permission. I mean, if you're not going to be putting your full name on there, if you're not going to be putting your address on there, why would you be putting your picture on there? Like, this just goes back to personal information. I feel like, I don't necessarily need to explain that. But anyway, that stuff's out of the way. Google Sites. And like I was saying with my 5 o'clock class, I apologize. For some reason, anything with Google in it, like Google Mail, Google Sites, Google Drive, Google, period, whatever it is, I am overpronouncing it right now because normally I have the hardest time in the world saying it. So if I say, like, something and you can't really understand what I'm saying, it's probably a pretty good chance that I'm trying to say Google something and I'm just tripping over my words. So just so you guys know. So how do you make a Google site? Well, you need a Gmail account to begin, and this is part of the reason why we were talking about creating a Gmail account on Monday. Hopefully you guys all have a Gmail account that you can use, because technically it's actually a Google account. So you can use all of Google's products with one login. And here I am advertising for Google. Not really intentionally, but it is good, and it's a nice thing to have, and it's free. Whatever, it's good. So yeah, you need to create a Google account before you can use Google Sites. Which the easiest way to do that is to create a Gmail account, because then it becomes your Google account across everything. And I'm assuming that you guys already did this. Does anybody here not have a Google account? By a show of hands. Alright, I didn't think so. I figured everybody has one. Well, now that you have that set up, though, you can just go ahead and go to sites.google.com, and I'll take you on a quick walkthrough of everything. So as you can see, I've done this explanation a couple times now, so there are a few not fantastic sites, and you'll notice that they're all shared with everyone in the world. So anyone can search for the Terminators 8888888, as was my beautiful example today at 5, and they'll be able to pull up this page. But let's go ahead and create a new site, and then we'll walk through all the features. So go ahead and click on Create, the orange button on the left-hand side. And it's going to bring you to this little dialog box where you can select a template for it, give it a name, and give it a website address. So I'm going to select classroom site, because why not? And I'm going to call it I'm going to call it, this is my the super website test 5 million. Okay, and as you can see down here, it's automatically going to populate the web address with your site name. So it takes a best guess at that. Sometimes it's not always filled, or sometimes it's not always available. If you pick something like, John's website or something like that, I had to double check, make sure nobody's name is John. John's website or something like that, because it might be, chances are pretty good somebody else has picked out John's website. So it's going to say, oh, this is already taken, so you can't go ahead and create that. And if that's the case, you can always fill it out with something else in order to, to distinguish it from your original idea, like put in your favorite 4 numbers or something like that. Probably not your year of birth, but your favorite 4 numbers, because that's a thing. Anyway, under select a theme, you can change the colors of everything. This is going to overwrite the template that we picked up here, because that also includes like a layout of the site and stuff like that. But then it will have this sort of theme on the page. So if you prefer that, then go ahead. More options, like a site description if you mouse over it, or if you when you search for your site on Google, if it comes up, you can include a site description here that will pop up. And then if you're clicking this button, I don't want to know about it. Then you got to make sure. Meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy some water. And here we go. The super website test 5 million. Apparently, I'm Mrs. Smith, and this is my classroom. It's just example text. We got home and homework assignments and extra credit, and we can contact Mrs. Smith. And then we can click here to read more about Mrs. Smith and her 2 children. And then there's also, there's a bunch of links and stuff on here. But this is not... Why is Schadenfreude here? Why? I did not post that. That was automatically posted. Don't put my name for Schadenfreude. Good lord. Good timing. Okay. So, let's change some of these things. Go ahead, and you can click the pencil up at the top right-hand side, and this allows you to edit the page. And it will look at basically everything that's on the page. It'll take it all apart. As you can see, this looks a little bit differently than what we had originally. Let me just go ahead and move the GoToWebinar thing out of the way. See, if we look back at the original page, we got Student of the Month, and Word of the Week, and recent announcements, and homework assignments, and blah, blah, blah. But if we edit the page, and these are all nice text boxes, if we edit the page, they're actually widgets on the page. And widgets are things that are provided by Google for Google sites that allow you to sort of update things much more quickly, rather than going into the web page and editing it you can update the recent announcements on your Google site, and it will automatically populate them. So let's go ahead and get rid of the word of the week. Because, you know, and if you really wanted to see, you could go here, and it will tell you exactly how to post an announcement, which is what these are, recent announcements. So, navigate to the announcement page, click New Post, add in your contents. When you're done, you click Save. If you're not ready yet, you can click Save Draft and come back to it and edit it later. And then it will automatically post in recent announcements, and then it will also post in the appropriate announcement wherever it was added or edited. So, cool. There's actually not much to edit here. We can edit... That's not what I wanted to do. Click on the edit. Here we go, loading the editor. We actually can't edit that here. We have to change the name of the page. I forgot about that. That's okay though. Actually, none of these things are editable except for home. We can call this not home. I picked a bad template for this, because so much of this stuff is not editable. See, the name of the page is not home over here now, so if we click off onto another one, we can go back to not home. There, discard draft. Let's go back to homework assignments. Did it? It kept the word of the week. Let's go ahead and get rid of the word of the week. Save. There, done. So we go to homework assignments, and we click edit over here. Nope, let's not translate it, because it sees it's in Latin, and it tries to translate it. So we can name this, you know, this really important things to know. And if we then over here, and we click save later on, you would notice that homework assignments would change to really important things to know, visible throughout the website. Likewise, if we wanted to add a new post, we could click new post over here. Wait, stay on this page, save, new post. And yeah, you should be really paying attention to this. I don't know if you know this, but this is a new post, and it's very important. Now that I talked as I was typing, and, you know, that's not annoying at all. We've got up here save draft. Again, if we wanted to come back to it later, we could save a draft of it. If we wanted to save it and post it, we click save. And if we went back to not home, look at that. It's automatically populated with the new really important things to know update. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let's look at some of the other features. Click on the gear over here, under more actions. There's all kinds of stuff you can edit. First things first, let's go to sharing and permissions. And you notice public on the web, anyone on the internet can find and view, and that's in bold. So let's go ahead and change that. We can change it to on anyone with a link. So if we share the link with anyone, they can view it. Or we can set it to off and specific people. Now, what's the difference between the two? Okay, so with on anyone with a link, we hit save. Anyone who has the link can view. And we've got the link right here. So if we give the link to somebody, they can view it. They can likewise give the link to somebody else, and that person can view it, and so on and so forth. This last one, off specific people, you notice that once we get back to that other page, you notice that there's a listing of people here, and right now it's just me. you can invite specific people. You can invite specific friends by email to look at your website. Now, they can share the link with other people. They can send the link to other people. Those other people will not be able to see your website unless they're on this specific list. And only you can send that invitation to people. So in that sense, you have a great amount of control over who's able to visit the page and view it. Now, of course, I mean, if you wanted to make your page at least somewhat public, you could set it to link so that the link, anyone with the link can view it. But this would guarantee, the most safety as far as personal information is concerned. I'm still saying it's not necessarily a good idea to put your information on it, even if you have it on private or link only, especially if you have it on link only. But it's just an extra layer of security. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to anyone with a link. You can change it to whichever of these two you feel comfortable with, but I recommend it taken off public. So I'm going to have it on link. Look at this, there's a bunch of other stuff over here. Bunch of other stuff. Let's go ahead and check some of this stuff out. Tech it out. I apparently, this has been an issue the last couple of days. So, under Pages on Managed Site, we have the ability to restructure basically the setup of our website. So if we wanted to, we could take really important things to know, and we could drag it under class calendar. It'll move it really slowly. We wait as it restructures everything. There we go. And as you can see, really important things to know, as well as all of the updates that we put in there. Really important update, and then the static homework for the week of blah blah blah. That came with the template when we set it up, have all been moved underneath class calendar. So what does that mean? Let's go ahead and we'll go back to our website, and let's click on class calendar. I don't think I actually put a link in here in order to be able to get to it. That's site layout. Not close. There's a term that I might use periodically to express my mistake in this case, and that term is whoopsie doodle. I definitely did not do this right. Let's move it under About Me and see if it becomes a subsection of About Me. Bear in mind with me. I'm just going to start that sentence over from the beginning. Bear with me. It's been a while. Okay. So we got class announcements, we got About Me, which has got really important things to know in there. And let's see, attachments. Attachments is all the pictures and stuff that we can attach to it. Recent site activity, yep. Page templates. Okay, let's go back to the website and see what happens. Apparently it just doesn't want to do that. Okay. Show links to subpages. There we go. Save. There we go. That's what did it. So yeah, since really important things to know is a subpage of About Me, all I had to do was go up here in the options and go to Page Settings and click the Show Links to Subpages. And at the bottom, as you can see, the really important things to know that we dragged underneath it in the tree comes up. Of course, we don't really necessarily want to hide it there, but just wanted to show that off. So now I can check out Edit Site Layout. Now, Edit Site Layout is going to change entirely how your site looks. So if we got rid of the sidebar, sidebar's gone. Boom. But if we kept horizontal navigation up here, then we could, mess around with that and change the look at our site. Change the look of our site, excuse me. Clicking on an individual item allows you to change the name of each of the things. So Mrs. Smith's classroom, let's change it to the online stuffs. And we can change the order of everything, so if we want really important things to know to be lower, we could send it down after clicking on it. We could, make it look like a subsection of something else. We could move Contact Me to the trash, so no one will ever be able to find it. These down here include a link to sitemap, and recent site activity. Sitemap, basically, if somebody clicks on it, they'll be able to see the entire layout of your entire website. So they'll be able to find all of the links, even if you've hidden them really well, because they'll just be visible in the sitemap. Recent site activity, that's more useful for you. But it allows you to see all of the changes that have been made to the website, recently. So if somebody decided to sign the form that you have on there, somebody decided to change around some web pages, whether or not it was you, it will show up there. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. You notice that we deleted Contact Me and we renamed it to Online Stuffs. If we hit OK, boom. That's when it updates. So Contact Me disappeared and this changed to Online Stuffs. We've also got the Meet Your Teacher here. And there's just a picture just dragged and dropped in there. So if we wanted to, we could look up a picture of robots. Images. And we could take a picture of a robot, like the Ratchet and Clank robot. Maybe we shouldn't use something copyrighted. Let's do of the future. I like that one. That one sounds interesting. Let's use this thinky robot. Creepy looking thinky robot. And see, we can't just copy paste it like that. But what we can do is we can save it as to the desktop. To the desktop. Save it. And we should be able to just drag and drop this picture over here like that. Nope, I did that wrong. Alright, let's go ahead and go back to this. Really gonna want to get rid of this teacher. Let's see here. That's because I'm bad at the internet. Upload images. You can either upload an image from your computer, or you can use a web address. We're going to go ahead and use the image URL. Okay. And let's go ahead and make it small, and center it, and delete the old one. Hit OK, and boom, there you go. Meet your teacher. Click here to read about Robotron 3030. So in this way, you can update various aspects of your web page to make it more yours. Because I don't know about you, but this lorem ipsum dolores et emet stuff, it's it's had its day. It's had its day. It's not really you. Horizontal navigation is the same thing as the sidebar. We can include pages that we, that are part of our website That's the word I was looking for. We can also add external URLs to other websites. So we could go like, don't go here, or free, if my fingers are to be believed. And then we can go http://reddit.com. Boom. And then hit OK, and we get these extra buttons up here for horizontal navigation. And this will take us to a part of the website. Of course, we can't click on it now because we're editing the site layout. And this one will take us to an external website. Now, another thing that's pretty handy about this is Google Sites has also included widgets. So let's go ahead and go back to the editing. And if you go up here to insert, we've got image, link, table of contents, subpage listing, horizontal line. These are, just various things. Recent posts, you'll notice this one's called gadgets. Recent posts, recently updated files, recent list items, a text box, an HTML box. We've also got more gadgets here if we click on that. And look at this. Google Calendar, Twitter follow button, Google Plus share button, YouTube news elements. All kinds of stuff. Google News, Google Groups, PayPal, simple storefronts, Twitter widget, tweet button, RSS feed, awesome table. Just all kinds of things that you can embed into your page, all kinds of little widgets and stuff that you can make it a lot cooler. As far as Google stuff is concerned, you can include a calendar that you can update on your own ends. It can be like, oh, my calendar, this is what my schedule looks like, and then if you keep it up to date, it will update on the website as well, so people can look at it and see like, oh, hey, like we had a Google site for our robotics club. In fact, I think it still exists. Yes, it does. Good Lord, look at that robot. But if we go to our Google Calendar here, this is the calendar that was maintained by the group. So this right here, everyone who has this calendar will see it. It automatically populates it here, so they can see, oh, 3 p.m. every Tuesday, there is a weekly meeting for an hour, and they meet for an hour and talk about robots and stuff. You can look at the... This is actually much of the same thing we were doing. We probably should have shrunk that picture down, but it's been a while since this page has been updated. But oh well. This is another point. This is a public page, so, anybody can search for this on Google and bring up our website. There you go. Just throwing that out there. Just for understanding, because this video is going to go up on YouTube later, and so now there's going to be a bunch of people who know that. Case in point. Case in point, everyone. Alright, let's see. Yeah, so charts, drives, you can stick any files from your Google Drive on there, documents, things like that, forms. People can fill out on the forms or work on the documents, depending on the permissions you set for them. So what we had on our website was a form that people could fill out and it would automatically get deposited into a spreadsheet, and it was anybody who was interested in joining the club or becoming a donor or anything like that. We'd get that information pretty much immediately. It would be sent to our email addresses, and we'd be able to look at it and get in contact with the person. That kind of a thing. Group and Hangout allow you to people, like if you have a phone number that's hooked up to your Google account, they can call you with one click of a button. I don't recommend it, but it's there in case you have like a business line through Google or something like that. Map shows where you are on the map. Again, handy for businesses and clubs, not so much for individual people. YouTube allows you to embed individual videos from YouTube into this. Yeah. Layout allows you to affect the layout of the page, so we can add in 2 columns, and I don't actually have anything selected there. But if you wanted to do more of a newspaper column style, so you could have 2 columns, one on either side, all filled with information. If you had a lot of information you wanted to convey on a page, I wouldn't recommend going, necessarily 3 columns, because that's a lot of information all on one page. It kind of becomes overload unless you put like pictures in the middle or something like that, and then you wrap text around the sides or whatever. I mean, that all comes down to personal preference, but I just feel like you should know. And then you've got, varying degrees thereof. 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns with, top and bottom bars, left sidebar, right sidebar, left and right sidebars. Again, at that point, it's all personal preference. Table allows you to insert a table. Format allows you to format the text. At this point, I'm just sort of talking about the individual things. If, you're so inclined, you can definitely go through these on your own time and just sort of mess around with the settings. The nice thing about computers, and this is something I mean to remind people every year, the nice thing about computers is that if you mess something up, 9 times out of 10, you can just undo it. No big deal. You go, oh no, I deleted that thing. Good thing it's stored in the computer and I can just hit Control Z or undo and everything's back, because it was all stored in memory somewhere in a cache. So don't be too afraid of messing with stuff. That goes for your computer. There are exceptions, of course. There are very important folders you should never go into. But for the most part, if you're like coding or something like that, you can mess around at this stage. Mess around. You wouldn't be able to screw anything up too bad. Most of the time, at that point, the compiler would just yell at you and go, hey, this isn't really working. There is a point in your programming life where you get good enough that you could maybe do some potential damage to the computer, but at that point, you would know better. Anyway, so, yeah. Ideally, at least. Let's see here. Of course, delete page, pretty obvious. You can get rid of an entire page if you don't like it. It'll confirm with you. So you can click cancel and not actually delete the page. Subscribe to site changes. Subscribe to page changes. Basically, if anything changes on the page or on the site, you'll get an email letting you know that something was updated. So if you really want to keep on top of changes made to your site, you would select one of those. Changing page template allows you to, change the page template like how I've got the classroom one here. I could change the page template to like soccer or something like that. And this would all flip over to that. Just for this page. Preview page as a viewer. Pretty self-explanatory. Somebody was visiting your website, this is what it would look like to them. And that's more or less the basic ins and outs of Google Sites. Now, I'd really like for you guys, to spend some time poking around in here, making some stuff, maybe build a website for yourself, something you can show off to other people, so that you could start putting work from this semester on there, and give yourself something that you can show off to other people. That would be ideal. If it doesn't happen, though, hopefully you still get a good semester out of this. It's just you wouldn't be able to show anybody anything. That's not exactly ideal. So I would definitely recommend that you would take a look at this and at least put something up so you can stick your your work on there. So Google Sites provides a lot of customization options. However, it's not exactly perfect. There is a means to get more customization over your website. It's more unwieldy and it's slower, at least at first, and it's what those templates for Google Sites are built off of, but with understanding and some practice, you could do just as well, and you could even do different things. And it's HTML, yeah, and CSS, but that's not in this lesson. But HTML is the language for all websites. So let's take a look at it with our remaining amount of time. It's probably going to be about 15 minutes, and then I've got to ask the poll questions, and then we can send you on your way. I forgot to ask the poll questions on Monday. But that's going to be a thing from here on out. So just so you know. Setting up and creating your first web page. Yes, in a very simplistic sense, if we manage to get through the whole lesson. But yeah, yeah. We already talked about the ePortfolio and internet safety. Although, again, just to reiterate, don't share information about your family or your friends or yourself. No personal information. Tell your parents about your Google site. Make your site private or give link access only. And just remember, anything on the web can be seen by anyone. Notify your parents of anything questionable. And don't put pictures of yourself on the site without your parents' permission. Just, just yeah. But yeah, what is HTML? HTML, well, is a scripting language. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And it's much like a programming language, sort of, in that it has stuff that doesn't look like English, that tells the computer to do things, but it isn't handled the same way as a programming language is. And it isn't... I won't necessarily say it isn't as involved, but it isn't as involved. But yeah, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. In fact, the technical term for what HTML is a markup language as opposed to a programming language. It's not a scripting language, it's a markup language. And it first appeared on the internet in 1991. Before that, everything else sort of was, plain text or telnet or, used their own means of projecting that information to another person's screen. It was not, the internet was a vastly different place in 1991 than it is now, as I'm sure you guys are aware. HTML, it took 9 years for HTML to become a global standard, though. That means every single website today uses HTML in some form or another. Now, you'll see other kinds of plugins like Microsoft Silverlight, and there are also other markup languages like CSS, and there's Unity, and there's Flash, and there's Java and JavaScript, and all this kinds of stuff. But on those websites, even on those websites, there's some vestige of HTML hidden in there somewhere. Usually that HTML is just like a vehicle, so the web page will open and then start up the plugin, whatever it might be. But HTML still exists on those web pages. So technically speaking, every single website today uses HTML. And it has gone through several versions. HTML5 is the newest version. But it's important to note that HTML5 is the newest version. As of last year, it had not yet been officially accepted by the World Wide Web Commission. HTML4 was still the reigning king as the international standard for websites. But that should change soon if it hasn't already. Now, note, the World Wide Web Commission, that means there's a group of people who get together and have a meeting and say how all websites should be scripted. Which is kind of crazy when you first think about it, but at the same time would be really, really, really nice for a lot of languages out there. As you get further into programming, if you get further into programming, you'll find that you wish that every programming language had a commission of people who just got together and said this is how it should look. Because everything looks different. It's crazy. Anyway, HTML5, World Wide Web Commission. So, we all know about HTML, or at least are aware of it. How does it get from an HTML document to you, over here? You, look at you, looking at memes on the internet. How does that happen? Where does it happen? Well, it starts its life as a document that you write. I mean, duh. Like anything else. It's a document that you write. A plain text document, which basically just means no frills, no bells and whistles, no nothing. A plain text document that you write that gets stored on a server. Now, the server, you always go to a website and it's like HTTP or HTTPS :// blah 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 blah. Well, HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The S usually stands for secure or security. The S ideally means that there is a secure connection between you and the computer you're connecting to. That is to say, it's going to be hard for somebody to find your information and basically pick it out of the traffic that you're sending back and forth. And even if they did, they wouldn't be able to make heads or tails of it because usually there's some sort of encryption process that you and the other computer use. HTTP is open. Just that information is out there for the world to see. It's nothing special about it. If somebody was tapping into your line, they would be able to see that information. Now, granted, this is a paranoid way of looking at it, but yeah, it's still, from a technical standpoint, that is the difference between the two. It should also be noted that HTTP is the basis for internet and client-server interaction. So basically how your computer and YouTube talk. How you're able to, get videos of people falling flat on their face, or dank memes or whatever on the internet is HTTP. Now, it's important to note that servers store all this web page information as the raw HTML file. Nothing actually exists in its final form on the web servers. They're all just text files and raw media, pictures, videos, things like that, and it just gets dumped onto your computer when you connect to it. That file just gets sent straight to your browser. The browser, in fact, is the one that does the translating. So it gets this raw HTML file, and then it sort of makes sense of it and constructs a page in front of you with the proper formatting and everything, ideally. But browsers all do it differently. They all have different means of translating that information. They all have different means of carrying it from the CPU or the video card to your monitor, and moving in things in and out of memory. So that's why you can have browsers that run at different speeds, because they translate that information differently. That also can be why some browsers will display something nicely and some browsers will not. That can be why some browsers are faster on some pages than other browsers, or why some browsers won't display a page at all. It all depends on how they translate that information. And that's why you get different performance from different browsers. So, yeah. And then the final step is you, excited you over here. So, let's say you wanted to edit HTML pages, create web pages. Well, there are expensive editors with lots of features and bells and whistles and stuff like that that allow you to, create a website, preview the page, things like that. Kind of similar to, the Google Sites editor and things like that. The nice thing, though, is that that kind of stuff is completely unnecessary. You can just use a free text editor. In fact, the one that's included with your computer. Now, show of hands, how many of you use Windows computers? All right, show of hands, how many of you use Mac or Linux? Okay, so we got one person. All right, cool. So, with the Macintosh operating system, there is, well, if you're using the Macintosh operating system, yeah, there is an important thing to note. Sorry, raise your hand if it's Linux. Okay, that's what I thought, but I just want to make sure. So TextEdit on the Macintosh operating system has the ability to save as something other than plain text. Notepad does too, but it defaults to plain text. So if you're using TextEdit on the Macintosh operating system, and go ahead and open it now so that we can take a look at it. Under the Format menu at the top, there is a Make Plain Text option. And if you select that, then everything should look like this. Those of you who are using Notepad on Windows, it should default to plain text, which is perfect. Now, why is that? Why is that so important? Well, I'll tell you why. Because HTML relies on being a plain text format. If you create a document in Word and you add all kinds of crazy stuff like pictures and charts and bold text and italics text and strike through and make one really big and one really small and blah blah blah, and then you save it like as a docx file or whatever. Well, here's the thing: Word basically creates a plain text file and then adds a bunch of information at the head and throughout the document, liberally sprinkled. Liberal sprinkly. Good lord. Anyway, sprinkly. It's been a long day. It's been a very long day. Um, Throughout the document, just information that doesn't look like what you typed in there. It's all like hex code and sort of just various information that other copies of Word would need in order to be able to, much like your browser, take that information, import it into Word, and format it exactly like how you wrote it. And that's why different versions of Word might open a document differently. That's why, if you got like the Open Office or whatever, or some free version of the Office suite, or free alternative or whatever, the document might look differently. That's why these things act the way they do. That's why if you get like the Macintosh Office suite, like the pages and numbers and all that kind of stuff, that stuff's going to look different on a Word document, and vice versa. So plain text just means that it is straight up whatever you typed in there. No bells and whistles, no frills, no nothing. Just whatever you typed in there.